Welcome, everyone, to today's episode. And I truly have the honour and privilege of introducing a stalwart in the register club industry here in New South Wales, but also a very good friend. And I've been part of the journey for more than 2 decades. And it's been wonderful to see not only the growth of individuals within the team, but also the growth of Mingara Group and the community that outlie around them in all the different venues and where they are. So I'm introducing you today to Paul Barnett. He is the CEO of Mingara Leisure Group, focused on organisational vision, values, and culture development. Paul has been in the gaming and hospitality industry since 1988 and has been employed at Mingara Leisure Group since 1998. And since 2000, that was when he was appointed to the CEO role. Since then, the organisation has grown from one venue with 160 team members, and that's when I first met Paul, to now
Yep.
5 venues with over 450 team members. And it continues to grow, with their net assets growing from 45 million to over 137 million in that time. During his time as CEO at the Tumbiumbi site, which is up on our central coast for the visitors, it's about 2 hours north of Sydney. The site
Yep.
has a new state-of-the-art fitness facility, won by Mingara. It's absolutely amazing, and an 86-room hotel over 4 floors, Encore by Mingara, which Paul kindly showed me through when it had just opened, and it is a glorious place to stay. So I'm not going to continue on telling you all the amazing things because I know you're just busting to hear from Paul. So Paul, welcome. Thank you so much for coming on to the podcast, and it's great to see you. But
Thanks,
I'd love
Michelle.
to hear more if you can just share with my listeners about the various amalgamations, growing through these multi venues, but
Yep.
also looking, to the upcoming developments of the retirement village and early learning centre.
Okay. Thanks, Michelle. Lovely to be here with you today, and good hello to all the listeners out there. Um, we first looked at an amalgamation back in 2005, 2006. We were one club based here on the Central Coast, and as you said, it's just a little bit north of Sydney. We felt that we were a little bit reliant on the local economy, and if it was very much a trade-based and retail-based local area.
Mm,
And we felt that if that economy was a bit quiet, we were also a little bit quiet. We reflected our local community. So we felt like we wanted to put a couple of eggs in some different baskets, and we came across an opportunity in Port Macquarie. The Westport Bowling Club was a nice little medium-sized club. It had been done some renovations, found some hard times, borrowed too much money, and was struggling. So
mm,
they put their hand up for an amalgamation at the bank's urging, and we were fortunate enough to be chosen as the preferred amalgamation partner. And we rolled in there in 2006 and changed lots of things.
mm.
There was lots of culturally, it was obviously when a club's going bad, they struggle culturally because the people don't know if they're going to have a job next week. So that was
Yes.
probably the biggest thing that we actually changed with the amalgamation. And then spent a little bit of money invested in them, and that went really well. So that was successful for us and continues to be a successful club, and we've renovated it extensively since
Mm.
that time. We also then picked up in 2009 a Roselands Bowling Club.
Yes.
Again, a distressed little bowling club. Hadn't done any work. It was a pretty average little club, had 4 bowling greens, very focused on bowls. They were very successful at bowls, but not very successful at running a bowling club. So they put their hand up for an amalgamation, and we were chosen as their preferred amalgamation partner. And then about 6 months later, we also came across Punch Bowl Egg Services Club. They were a little bit larger club, very, very, very average building, no money, broke.
Mm.
We made the commitment to Punch Bowl Egg Services Club that we would amalgamate with them, but we were going to move their members over to Roselands. It was only about less than a kilometre as the crow flies,
Mm.
and sell their property and bring forward our plans to rebuild the club at Roselands. So lots of people didn't think we'd be able to do that and that the members wouldn't approve it, but they did, and full credit to them and their board
Mm.
at the time. So we sold the Punch Bowl site, and then we brought forward our plans. We rebuilt the Roselands Bowling Club into what is now known as Lantern Club. And it's been very successful for us and has been trading for over 10 years in that new building. So that's
Mm.
a great amalgamation for us. We did amalgamate briefly with the Chatswood, a club at Chatswood. It was the Gordon Rugby Club. We
Mm.
did, again, what I think was a pretty good renovation of the club, but it was a rental property. And after about 5 years, we were finding that the rent, we were busting ourselves to
Yeah.
do really well, but then all the money was going out the door to the landlord. So we made the decision to de-amalgamate that and look after both the rugby club and our team,
Mm,
transfer all of that over to the Chatswood RSL, and they happily took that on for us. So that was a good amalgamation and a de-amalgamation. Everybody
mm.
reasonably happy with that. We picked up Springwood Bowling Club in the Blue Mountains, west of Sydney. So you can see our philosophy there. I suppose we're just trying to put eggs in different baskets, but in different demographic areas. And that's not
Yes.
saying local amalgamations aren't better or worse. It was just our view that that time that we wanted to do a couple of regionally diverse, bit of a diversification from a location point of view.
Mm,
Springwood Sports Club, again, we're a club that had borrowed too much money, got in trouble with the bank, and it's a pretty common problem, unfortunately. And we pick up these clubs that are distressed, but just being really just underperforming. So
mm,
we put a little bit of capital into them, turn the culture around, get people focused on good customer service, and that's been again a successful little amalgamation for us. And then more recently, in 2019, we amalgamated with a local club here, the Entrance Bowling Club, known as the Greens, the Entrance.
mm.
That was a pretty hotly contested amalgamation, and we were again fortunate enough to be chosen as the preferred partner. We got in there and gave it a bit of a facelift, probably about $500,000 worth of facelift at that time. And then, unfortunately, on the 2nd of March, just 6 months later, we were subject to a pretty devastating fire. So the club's been closed, was
Gosh.
closed for just under 5 years, and
Mm,
we had a lot of difficulty with firstly asbestos, and then the fire investigation, then the insurance company who were
mm.
reluctant to assist us through that process. But we got through that. We got a building approved, and we have just reopened in March this year, 2025,
Right.
and it's performing really well for us. So we've got 5 clubs back operating again.
Mm.
So
It's
the
excellent.
challenge of the Greens was enormous. It was when we'd committed to our members down there that we would do 2 synthetic greens undercover and that we'd rebuild the
Mm.
club, and we just persevered through that. And I think sometimes the members felt like we were pulling their leg, given the amount
Yes.
of hurdles that we had, but we were determined to get through. And it's a really lovely little club
Mm.
just around the corner from us. A lot different to Mingara. Mingara is a very large club, as you know, Michelle.
Yes.
The Greens is a small little locals club. It's a lot more intimate. So
Mm.
we've got the best of both worlds up here, just 6 kilometres away from each other.
Yeah.
So that's our history with amalgamations.
Yes.
That works well. It's been a successful strategy for us to put, as I say, eggs in different baskets. We've had different
Mm.
occasions where one club's suffering a little bit with whatever reason, the economy or local community, and the other clubs have held it up. So we find that works really well for us.
Mm. Yeah. And it
Um,
does.
yeah, and more recently we've started to focus on, given that we thought it was the right time to focus a little bit more on developing some of our land assets, particularly here on the Mingara side.
Mm.
We've recently opened our new hotel, as you mentioned, Encore by
Yes.
Mingara, our 86-room hotel. That opened in December of 24, and we're really pleased to get that
Mm.
underway. We've also got a DA in for an early learning centre. They're not called childcare centres
Oh.
anymore. I keep being corrected. They're an early learning centre, and showing my age. That's in with council. That's for 112 places. So that's a
Wow.
very, very much needed
Yes.
facility in the local Central Coast area here. Parents of young children really struggle with finding
Yeah.
adequate daycare,
Mm.
early learning centres. Unfortunately, that's been sitting in council now for over 500 days. So we're really disappointed with the time that's taken.
Yes.
And that will be, we've actually got parents who are ringing and asking, can they put their name down for it? But we're still waiting. We're still waiting for council to approve that one. We're not too sure why it's been held up for so long. They've got their own
Mm.
reasons. I won't let this turn into a council bashing session, but
No,
we're
500
certainly
days is
disappointed. It's a
ridiculous.
long time, particularly when they know that childcare is so much in demand up here in the coast.
Yes. Mm.
At the same time, we've worked up a proposal with a partner to develop a retirement living village here on the site at Mingara, and that's
Hmm.
a 229 unit development with 33 high care beds, spread over 5 fairly significant multi-story towers, and then another
Mm.
lower level 2-story townhouses. So that's a really lovely development. That's in with Department of Planning. It's actually too big for council. It goes
Right. Mm.
supersedes council. So that's in the process. We're working through that. There's been some objections. Not everybody's happy with having a retirement living built where they think they're allowed to play golf, hit a golf ball or walk their dog, which has been a little bit frustrating. But we're working our way through that, and we would anticipate that'll be approved sometime early in 2026 at this stage. We'll
Mm.
see how we go.
My
Hmm.
gosh. So
So a
it's
good bit on our plate still.
very much so. And it's just that continual changing and growing for the community. And you're right, where you are there at Tumbiumbi, it's very much a very diverse demographic across your whole community,
Mm.
isn't it? You've got
Yeah.
a lot of young people have moved to the Central Coast in the last few years because Sydney's just ridiculously priced everybody out of the market.
Yep.
And mind you, it's not cheap anymore
No,
either on the
no,
Central
not
Coast.
anymore.
But you've got those growing families. Learning centres or early learning centres are really desperately needed throughout. And then, of course, then you've got the other end of the spectrum, which is retirement villages. And I love
Mm.
to hear that you've also got the high care facilities because
Yeah.
a lot of people think they can go into retirement village, but then there is that next step, and if they
Yes.
can do that next step when perhaps one partner is still living
Yep.
solo in their other partner can be in that high care facility. So, and it is an absolute minefield. I went through it many years ago with
Yep.
my father, and if once you get into that process, it's many steps, and if you
Mm.
can have that, that would be ideal. But you know even thinking about all those amalgamations, and we've been part of that whole time. And I remember going to Roseland's Bowling Club with my father, and he was still alive, for you to do a little mystery shop to
Yep.
see what it was like, and
That's right.
just to grow through the whole process of
Mm.
building the Lantern Club. And I remember saying to all my Sydney clients back then, I said, when this Mingara group get down to Sydney, I said, look out, because I said, if they literally copy the model of Mingara down here,
Yep.
you're going to be chasing your tail. These
Yep.
guys really know what's doing. And I've always said that no matter where you are, Port Macquarie, Roselands, Springwood, all those have all got different
Mm.
communities, different
Yep.
demographics, but you've always seemed to match your management team so well. Like,
Yep. Thank you.
every venue manager has just slotted in
Mm.
really beautiful. The team has grown. Actually, my husband was just ringing me then from Springwood as we came on because my daughter and grandchildren are up in Mudgee.
Yep.
So he's bringing back the little one to the dentist now. And he said, I'm just leaving Springwood now because it's a really great place. You can go
Yep.
and sit
Thank you.
down. It's lovely and relaxing. And that's the thing. Everybody feels welcome. So, first off, I just want to say hats off to you, in
Thank you.
building a team. And we're going to talk about that in a moment because it is hard to recruit. And then
Hmm.
it's hard to keep them, isn't it? Because
It
they
is.
sort of
Yep.
come in and we go, because so many people see our industry as that second job, and
Hmm.
it's so much more than that. So, you have built this amazing career, and we're going to talk about that, Paul, as we go through our conversation. But I'd love for you to share with us about why you joined the hospitality industry and what was your first job in the industry.
Crikeys. Um, Going back a fair way now, Michelle. I suppose my first foray was I was actually working. When I left school, we all back in my day, you did kind of did what your father did. So my dad was a career public servant, so I joined the government.
Uh,
I didn't even really know what that meant, and I thought I wanted to be an accountant, but I didn't realize how wrong I could be. So no offense to all the accountants out there, but it wasn't what I thought it'd be. So I worked in various government departments. When I first moved up to the Central Coast, I picked up a second job. It was in a local hotel. I then got a job within the government as a with liquor and gaming. So not many, I don't know how many people actually know that, but I actually worked for liquor and gaming for 6 years. So
oh, they're the baddies,
yeah, I know,
everybody.
right? That's why I
No,
haven't
not
told
really.
anyone. It's a very closely kept secret. Don't tell anyone, okay? Don't tell anybody. How many listeners you got to this podcast? Yeah, that's
A few, but
a
anyway,
few.
hopefully don't
Secrets out.
unsubscribe.
The secret's out. So I did that for 6 years in Newcastle, and then circumstances in my personal life, I thought, my life's changed a little bit. It's time for me to try something different. And I was getting a little bit bored with it, to be honest. But I don't, as an inspector with liquor and gaming, I'd kind of done a lot of work in the club space with poker machines, and I kind of felt like that was an opportunity for me, something I'd like to explore a bit further. So I
Mm,
started looking around for jobs on the other side of the fence. And I was fortunate enough to be given an opportunity at Castle Hill RSL Club. So for 2 years, I commuted from the Central Coast down
gosh.
to Castle Hill,
Mm,
and learned a lot there as a gaming manager. It was a good little venue.
mm.
Did pretty well as a club. It does amazing things now. But it was
Yes.
yes, David done a cracking job down there. He wasn't the CEO at the time. It was another chap who was interesting to learn from in lots of respects.
Mm,
So I did that for a couple of years, and then I was able to then apply and pick up the job at Parramatta Leagues as gaming manager when
Right.
Michael, the previous gaming manager, went off to what became Star City, was Sydney
Mm,
Harbour Casino. So Parramatta Leagues at that time was flying. It was the number one venue per machine in the state. So it was a
mm.
really high performing poker machine venue. Spent a couple of years there with Dennis Fitzgerald. Went
Mm.
through all the Super League wars, which is interesting. We're not going to talk about those
Oh.
stories here on this podcast because they're not suitable for some of them are not suitable for viewing. But again, I learnt a lot about that. I was then headhunted to go and about the time that pubs were setting up poker machines by a organisation that actually helped publicans manage what were the old card machines, the old carding.
Oh, yeah.
And because pubs were getting poker machines, the chap that owned it didn't really know much about poker machines, so he pretty much headhunted me to go and help him set that up. And that was in a group of about 40 to 50 hotels. It fluctuated a little bit.
God.
Um, and it was interesting. I learned a lot about publicans at that time.
Mm.
Um, Again, things I liked and things that I didn't like so much. But what I did always want to do, I was very keen to get a job here at Mingara. I was still living on the Central Coast and
Right.
traveling around a lot. I wanted to work on the coast, and I particularly wanted to work at Mingara. So I applied for the job here, and that was in 1998.
Mm.
And my initial portfolio was gaming, marketing, entertainment, promotion. So it was a pretty broad
It was everything.
portfolio. It was kind of a bit of everything. The club had not long moved to this new site. It was run very, very skinny. I always describe it as a bit like licking the paint off the walls. We had no money, no cash. We were constantly running stock down at the end of the month to get through and things
Mm.
like that, just so we could not have to pay too much out.
Yes.
Cash was tight. We were trying to bank everything. We quite often on a Friday, Saturday night, we'd have to crack a few poker machines open and do a clearance during trade. And it was again a steep learning curve, but a great
Yes.
opportunity. And the CEO at the time, John Osborne, recognised in me that he thought that I had some potential, and he
Mm.
asked me what I wanted to do, and I said, "Your job long term looks pretty good." And I was
Yes.
pretty brazen, I suppose.
Mm.
And he was fortunate enough that he had his own plans, and he put me on a plan to learn and develop and be prepared for when he left to take over as CEO, and that was in 2002. And
Wow.
it was again a long time ago, but I was very fortunate to be given that to be recognised for whatever abilities that he thought that I had, and
Mm.
put it in place. And when John left, I was appointed CEO. There was no application, there was no interview. Got told that I had the job, and away we went.
And
So
that was it.
yeah, and 6 weeks later, John walked out the door, and I started, and the air conditioning duct over the pool fell into the pool. I thought, gee whiz, this CEO stuff's not very, isn't all it's cracked up to be. I thought it was a lot more fun than this. So that was the first crisis. It was actually literally on day one. The massive air conditioning duct above the pool fell into the pool.
And
Luckily, no one was hurt.
this was the pool that the American Olympic team trained in, didn't they, for our
Hmm.
2000 Olympics? So, listeners, this is a massive pool. It
It's
is
a
a huge
Olympic
space.
pool. Yeah.
So, we're not looking at a tiny
Yeah.
little air conditioning duct.
It was an initiation of fire. There's no doubt about that. So yeah.
I would, and the thing is, in Mingara, sitting inside, you can actually you overlook the pool, so you can
Hmm.
see it. So I would have loved to see the faces of the members and guests sitting there as they
Yes.
saw.
What's going on? Yes. Anyway,
I
we
love.
survived, and so did our members.
Well, you did, and you continued on, and yeah, I hope you sent a note to the previous CEO going, "Thanks, buddy."
What's that all about?
For unhooking the screws. But what's so interesting is, and I want to ask you about so many people that come into our industry that are there now. And, we've now got 4 generations that are
Mm.
working in our industry and 6 generations that we're serving. What do you think would be a tip for somebody starting their career? Because so many of them still see it, Paul, is that stopgap measure. Is
Mm.
there an opportunity? Is this really right for me? But as you have shared with us your beautiful journey, and then having somebody see you, the potential in you. And I think that to me is that key point about being a leader. It's not
Mm.
just about leading, managing people. It's seeing that potential in somebody and igniting that they may
Mm.
not even know they've got. So what are your thoughts in, tips or trying to share that idea that we've got
Yeah. Look, I
opportunities?
think one of the challenges, and hindsight's very easy. I mean, we look back
Oh,
when
yes.
we were younger and think, gee, if only I knew back then what I know now. And
Mm.
you try and impart that to our children and young people that I work with. And I think sometimes they look at me like I've got 2 heads. I don't know what I'm talking about, some old fossil.
Yeah.
But yeah, you don't know what you don't know. So people don't know about the hospitality industry. And if you're 18, you're going out there somewhere, you go and you have a drink and you have a good time, but they don't understand the complexities in clubs and how many diverse opportunities there are. And
Yes.
within our organisation, we've got people who work in our creche, in our gym, and our pool. They're lifeguards. You can be in maintenance, you can be in stores, you can be front of house, you can be
Mm,
back house, you can do admin. Yes, you can pour beer, and yes, you can work in the gaming floor. Could you also be a chef? You could be,
mm,
you could be a cook. There's in our place we've got bakers who
yeah.
bake in our roasted
Yes.
berry cafe. We've got all of these opportunities across a number of hotel guests, hotel front reception, hotel
Mm,
housekeeping.
mm,
That's just in our organisation, and other clubs have other things that they do. You just don't know. And
mm,
really, when you're 18, 19, I didn't really know what I wanted to do either. Sometimes wonder
no.
what I don't know what I want to do next.
Yeah.
Very few of people that I know and have known for a long time, most of them don't really know what they really wanted to do. I went to
Yes.
school. I'm fortunate enough to be still in very close contact with a number of my schoolmates, and of all of us, only two of us were very clear about what they wanted to do and then stuck with it. And they were police officers. That's what they
Right.
wanted to do, and they
Mm,
were fortunate enough to become career police officers. All the rest of us have landed nowhere near what we thought we wanted to do.
yes.
And have taken some of us taken a bit of a long way around to get to it. Others found it
Mm,
pretty quickly. So you don't know. I think most people don't really know what they want to do.
yeah.
And I always say to young people, don't beat yourself up about that. You're going to have more careers anyway. Everyone knows
Mm,
that these days. Don't get too hung up about what you think you might want to do. Just try
yes.
different things, and but be open-minded about it.
Mm,
There is lots of opportunities in the club industry.
yeah.
I've even got an example really close to home. One of our sons was doing had left school, was doing his Bachelor of Business, and we encouraged him to do whatever he wanted to do, whether it was a trade or whatever he wanted to do, and he thought that's what he wanted to do. So he started that. He was fortunate enough to get a job in a local club near us,
Mm,
not with me, but with another club. Um, and halfway through the degree, he got a little bit unsure about what he really wanted to do. And I said to him one stage, we were having this conversation, I said, mate,
mm.
have you ever considered a career in the hospitality industry? And he said, oh, Dad, I don't want to work in the club industry all my life. I thought, wow, far out. It's been a pretty good
Got
life.
you through school, buddy. But anyway.
Yeah, you went to a nice school, mate. And you remember your overseas exchange program and all this, all that stuff. That was all courtesy of the hospitality industry. And as it's turned out, he was given an opportunity. Someone recognised in him some abilities. Finished his degree.
Mhm.
That club is now part of the Mounties Group, and
Right.
he's building a career with an opposition club. But that's okay. They're a good organisation too. It's the club industry, and he's doing well.
Yes.
Ironically, our other son's working at clubs in New South Wales, as it turns out. So
Gosh.
there's good opportunities for people. You just never know. And he worked in one of our clubs too. He worked at Lantern Club for a while.
Mm,
So you never know where your career is going to take you. You don't know what you're going to do.
yes.
Um, just try a few different things. But the club industry is a lot of there's a lot of opportunity for people, and yeah,
Mm.
we
And
shouldn't be
it's yeah,
closed-minded to it.
yeah, and I think that's the thing is not just thinking it's about a bar job, which so many do.
No.
And it's funny because we hear that, when Gen Y first came into the workplace, oh, they're going to have all these jobs and all
Mm.
these different industries. And I'm thinking, I used to sit on Bondi Beach in the early 80s going through
Yep.
the, Sydney Morning Herald, and every 6 months I'd change a job because I thought, oh,
Yep.
I'll try something else.
That's right. Give
And
it a
so
go.
it's not just a new thing to young people. And
Mm.
you've just got to find that place for you,
Yep.
that where
Yep.
you're going to shine and
Mm.
then grow,
That's right.
and as you said, and particularly there, that perfect example with your son, oh, well, I don't want to be in the industry that you've been in, just like you said about your dad,
Yep.
and
Yeah.
then look
Yep.
where he is.
That's right. Exactly right. And I go back to when I was a kid. One of my jobs I had as a young bloke, being a Western Sydney boy, when Mount Druitt Waterworks opened, and not many people know this, there was a water slide park at Mount Druitt, and I got a job in the kiosk there, and I got to say I hated it. I couldn't believe that people didn't use manners, didn't say please, and
Oh,
didn't say thank you,
yes.
and I said I remember saying very clearly I'm never going to get a job where I have to deal with the public.
Mm.
So I started doing accounting and didn't like that either. And then all of a sudden you go full circle, and here I am, the CEO of a club group, and I just deal with people, the public, and I love dealing with our members.
Yes.
The vast majority of them are amazing. And I look at numbers and having to read balance sheets and all that accounting stuff. I'm not an accountant, but I can bluff my way through it, and here I am, full circle, back doing the two things I said that I would never do.
You never
You
do.
just don't know. But I'm a long way away from Mount Druitt Waterworks these days.
Yes. And but I must admit, I remember I had already started, oops, we'd already been in it for a long time, and I decided to open this cafe and laundry. My son was in year 12, my daughter was in year 10, and my youngest was in kindergarten.
Mm.
And so I said to my son, like, you've got your P's, you'll be great. Just go to all the different beauty salons and you've got to pick up all the
Yep.
towels. So, Bryce is this really big guy, so he gets there and he loads up his ute, and he comes back and he just throws the bundles of towels and all that. And I said, oh, what happened? He goes, they didn't even say hello. They didn't say thank you. He said, I'm not
Yep.
doing that again. And
Yep.
that was it. He just tossed in the towel. And it was all because of those simple, he goes, well, I'm not going to be doing that. How rude. And that's where manners are important. And that
That's right.
becomes that full circle of
Hmm.
that customer service and that experience and dealing with customers that may not be as nice as you or have the same
Yep.
manners, but
That's right.
how do we
How do you
tolerate them?
cope?
So,
Yep.
I suppose that
That's right.
goes into my next question about you've built these an amazing team. How do you keep them engaged and fulfilled? Because and not wanting them to go somewhere else, or if they do,
Hmm.
do you allow them to come back as well?
Oh, yeah, I've got some techniques about getting people back.
Yes.
The first thing I've got to say is I'm not a micromanager. I don't micromanage people. I think most people hate being micromanaged, so
Yes.
we don't do that in our organization. We're very clear with our values and with our what our vision is, and we
Mm.
just talk about that a lot. And if people can resonate with that, if they can resonate with what we do and what we're trying to do, and their values align with our values, they'll feel comfortable. And if they don't, they won't. So we do that, and then as I say, we put people in the right role. We try very hard to set them up to succeed. We try to not tell them, particularly leadership roles, not too prescriptive, and in the senior roles especially. Everybody that we employ in specialist roles should know what they're doing, and I expect them to be able to do their job better than I can do. And that's kind of the philosophy we take with it. And I think if you do all those things, let people enjoy their job, let them have some freedom, let them skin their knees a little bit now and again. Don't let them ruin the organisation, but skinning your knees a little bit and having some learning lessons along the way, we're okay with that.
Yes.
Um, Positive reinforcement, catching people doing the right thing, not
Mm.
catching people doing the wrong thing, catch people doing the right thing,
Yes.
and acknowledge it publicly and acknowledge it so people want that. People want to do what other people are doing, so they get that
Yes.
recognition for it.
Mm.
Particularly in our leadership roles and our senior leadership roles, we try not to have money as an issue for people. People come to work. I always say most people go to work because they need to. They want to like where they work, but most people need to work.
Yes.
I've worked with very few people who actually didn't need to work.
Mm.
I only think of one or two off the top of my head, and they were doing it because they loved it.
Mm.
But most people come to work, the vast majority of people come to work because they need the money. So we don't want people thinking they're underpaid. We don't want people thinking about, oh, if I left here, I could earn more here. That doesn't mean we have to pay more than everybody else. We don't, because you've got to be financially responsible.
Mm.
But you don't want money being an issue with people. So we make
Yes.
sure that we do regular salary reviews. So rather than them saying, oh, having a salary review for 18 months, 2 years, we
Mm.
make sure that we've been proactive in that space and take the money off the table. Make
Yes.
it so it's not an issue that they're thinking about. So they can just say, okay, I'm well paid. I'm
Mm.
paid reasonably. Yeah, I could change, but do I really want to change because I really like the people I work with? We
Yeah.
often talk about, this is the family we choose.
Mm.
We spend 8 hours or 10 hours, sometimes longer,
Yes.
with these people. If they're the family you choose, you spend more time
Mm.
with people here at work than you'd probably spend with waking hours with your most cherished loved ones.
Yes.
So you've
Yes.
got to like who you work with. So we're really clear about that we want, it's hard to get into our organizations.
Mm.
We're really, really fussy, and we make no apologies about being fussy about who we bring in, because this is the family we choose, and you're not just going to let anyone into your family.
Mm.
No one wants to have people in your family that you don't like. So we try to make sure, and that doesn't mean you can't have difficult, robust conversations. You need to
Yeah.
do those at different times and
Mm.
hold people to account. But we're really careful about who works here. So if money's not really an issue, and yeah, okay, you might be able to earn an extra 4 or 5% down the road somewhere, but
Mm.
I really like working with this team here, and that's enough. You've got to have the right
Yes.
culture, remunerate people well, so
Mm.
it's not an issue. Yeah, and let them achieve. Let them
Mm.
achieve.
And
Mm.
it's so important, when uh, we've talked about values and me over 3 decades. That's the whole thing that my company's built is on those
Yep.
values based. And
Yep.
I know 3 decades ago, you'd be talking to people, and I won't gender be specific, but men, and just
Mm.
roll their eyes and go, "Oh, Michelle, just give us the stats. We're not interested in your comments or your
Hmm.
values or anything else."
Hmm.
But over time, that's changed. And it's the same as that word of this, having this organizational culture. It's when you're living and breathing and modeling those behaviors of your values and the leadership team, but then also the frontline team, then that does become that workplace of choice,
Hmm.
doesn't it? You know,
That's
people
right.
go, I want to work there. And sure, they may be able to get a few extra dollars down the road, but they're not going to have that same team. And I loved how you said you choose the family that you're working with, because
Mm.
sometimes you can have that perhaps, in your own family, a cousin that you really don't want, but you've got to
That's
put
right.
up with them
Yep.
in the
Mm.
workplace. In the
Yep. But
workplace.
you have to.
And you have to, you don't have any
Yeah.
choice. So in
Yeah.
the workplace, you want to be able to come to work, but it's also you thinking about what is your impact as an
Hmm.
individual, not just others' impact on yourself, but what's your impact on
Yep.
the others' team. And to me, when you've got that really good, solid team and they're all working towards the vision, then you're not getting people just saying, Saturday night, I'd rather go out and then
Yep.
just let my team in the lurch,
No,
because they
that's right.
know that's
Yeah.
that's going to really muck things up. So it's key. And then once again, you've got so many diverse communities that you work with where your
Hmm.
venues are.
Yep.
It's making it attractive for them to come to you. And I agree with you. You do not have to apologize for having really strict, you know, way or parameters on who you
Mm.
want to employ,
That's
because we
right.
all know you get a rotten apple and it can just
Well,
destroy a
yep.
business
Yep.
so quickly.
Yeah. We talk often internally a lot about nines and tens.
Mm,
We only want to employ people who are nines and tens out of 10.
yes.
Seven and eight's lovely.
Mm,
But that's not that's not great. You know,
no.
it's everything. Our benchmark is great, and that means you got to be a nine or a 10 out of 10. And if people start to slip, we help them re-achieve to become a nine or a 10, and because everyone
Yes.
goes through ups and downs,
Mm,
and we will invest in those people and help those people and assist those people, and while we think it's worthwhile, and when it's not, it's not.
mm.
So
Yeah. And that gives them that choice. That's for them. They're
that's
either
right.
going
Yeah,
to, identify with the organization, or they move on,
that's
because
right.
some people, they may think it's right for them and then they realize it's not, so that's fine, but
Yeah,
out they go.
out they go. Michelle, you asked before about when people leave and come back. We've got a number of people. There's three or four people within throwing distance of me right now who have, for various reasons, for their career, for to grow, to try different things, or have left our organisation. And I'm, I suppose I've been around a long time, so you get part of the job is you lose people.
Yes.
And I say to them, I said, I never like losing good people. I
Mm,
understand that some people, you've got to do what you've got to do, and if you need to, you've got a young family and a mortgage, or for
mm,
whatever reason you need to chase that extra 20 grand a year, and we can't, that happens. I understand that. Or you feel like it's time to take that next step and we can't
mm,
offer you something. I never like losing good people. I've come to learn to deal with it, but it doesn't mean I like it.
mm,
And I always wish people well. But I'm also very clear to the people that I really don't want to lose. I make it really clear to them in a private conversation that I wish them well, and I hope the
mm.
job is an amazing success for them. But if it doesn't, come home. And I actually
No.
say those words to people. I say, come home. If it
Yeah.
doesn't work out, come home.
Mm.
But I don't say that to everybody.
No.
So
No.
I think people know that when I say it, I genuinely really mean it.
Mm.
And then within that group, there's some, I've lost over the years a couple of people who I thought, I really don't want to lose these people. I'm not above being sneaky.
Yeah.
And one of my secret weapons is I will send them a bottle of wine to their home on the day they start their brand new job. And when they arrive home that day, and I hope it's been an amazing day from it's a simple thing. I say, hope your first day was amazing for you. We're thinking of you today. Best of luck. Because sometimes you go to start that first day or two and it's not what you thought it might be. And the
Yes. Yes.
first person who wished you well and is still there for you is us.
Yes.
And that's it's a dirty trick,
Mm.
and I'm not above doing that. And and it's worked. I've got to say, it's worked a couple of times, and we welcome back great people.
Mm.
We've got people who've come back after a few months.
Mm.
I've got somebody working for us in our team now who has been gone for 15 years.
Wow,
And that was a
gosh.
great opportunity for that person to go away and grow.
Yes.
They had a couple of kids, they've grown
Mm,
their career, and they've come back in a more senior role.
mm.
It's been fantastic. And that person was very, very keen to come back because she understood what sort of an organisation we are and who we are.
Yes.
That
Mm,
person slotted straight back in like she'd never been gone, and it's
mm.
been amazing for us and for them. So yeah,
Yes.
so
Yeah.
it goes around. What goes around comes around, but you've got to take the time to recognise people for what they are.
Yeah, you do. And even though the wine may be sneaky, I think it's just it's coming from the heart
Yeah,
and
it's
saying,
genuine. I
you know,
mean well. It's not just
yeah,
about the
yeah.
sneaky tactic. I actually do mean well because they're people I like, right? They're part of our family, so I do mean it genuinely.
Yes,
But
yes.
I'm not above admitting that it's part of it's like, no, if it wasn't quite what you thought, well,
Then
here
we're
we are
changing
still,
it. Yes, yeah. Because I think, there's a lot of organizations that lose people and it's a big gamble for people to take on another role. And if
Mm,
it doesn't work out, it's that for them, it could be that embarrassment, if I
yep,
go back, or
yep,
what happens if they go no? So by you putting out that hand and saying, if you
it's
want
okay.
to come home,
Yeah,
it's just wonderful. So when
but I
we
don't do
look,
it to everybody.
no,
I'm really, really
no, and that's
select.
what makes it
Yeah,
so important.
that's right. Yep,
Yes, yeah,
yep.
because you only want to be, and because you're understanding why they're leaving. They're not
Hmm.
leaving because of,
Don't
or
like the boss. Yep,
yes, yeah,
yeah.
it's for a reason. So when we look at the staffing, getting them in, the expectations of our members and guests today is so
Mhm.
much higher. There is that intolerance. The
Yep.
hospitality is in under immense pressure, even with costs. People, coming in, they're expecting
Mhm.
good value, the prices
Yep.
of food. How do you see the role of service evolving in this environment, and why is it still important, do you believe, Paul?
Oh, it's a tricky one, isn't it? I think
Mm.
particularly, I think shows like Gordon Ramsay and
Yes.
um, all those different, what's those cooking shows on TV? I don't watch much TV.
Oh, Master Chef and
Everyone, like
My Kitchen Rules.
everybody suddenly is a food expert. And I always say, just because we put food in our mouths 3 times a day, it doesn't mean we're experts.
No.
Um, but we all think we are. Everybody thinks they're an expert with food.
Mm.
I always say, yeah, your idea of a medium rare steak might be different to my idea of a medium rare steak. So we
Yes.
deal with all that complexities. And now you got people saying, well, I can be difficult as a customer because that's not exactly how I would cook it. Well, that doesn't are you a chef? Do you
Mm.
actually really know that? But so it's difficult. I think people are becoming very, very conscious of quality, but also value.
Yes.
And we've always said, we're not going to be a cheap venue. We don't do
Mm.
cheap food. I remember speaking to a group of members at one of the amalgamations, and I was trying to get some interaction with the members, and they were talking about different things they were looking. So what are you looking for? And someone yelled out cheap food, and I went, well, stop, stop. If you're looking for cheap food, we're the wrong organisation. We don't do cheap food. We
No.
do value food.
Mm.
You'll think it's good value. I said, yeah, don't think you're going to be coming in here and eating cheap food because cheap
Yes.
food is exactly that. It's cheap food.
Mm.
It's value. And I think people are starting to understand that a little bit better.
Yes.
Um, the quality of our ingredients has got to continue to improve. People are
Mm.
more socially aware of where your food's coming from. Coffee is off the Richter scale.
Yes.
Our coffee has changed so much from
Mm.
even the last 20 years, when I was running operations and stuff here. Like people are so much more discerning with their coffee. Their
Yes.
expectation is so much higher. And again,
Mm.
everybody has a different view. That coffee blend is too bitter,
Mm.
it's too sweet, too chocolate. Everyone's got a view,
Mm.
and you can't please everybody, as always.
Yes.
But people are much more discerning. And people think and believe they're experts. So
Yes.
that's the challenge for us. So
Yes. Mm.
um, I think we've unfortunately headed down a road a little bit where there's this expectation around portion sizes.
Mm.
Follow the lead of some overseas countries where, unless it's hanging off the plate, it's not value, it's not big
Yeah.
enough. And I
Mm.
don't know that that's a good thing.
No.
Certainly not good for the national waistline.
No.
It does, and so much food it's either overeaten
Mm.
or
Or
gets
just
thrown out.
wasted.
It's just waste. It's not necessary, and I think we've
Mm.
fallen into that trap a little
Mm.
bit, and that's a shame. I think that's a shame culturally for us as a country, but also bad
Yes.
for us as venue operators because we put all this food on the plate.
Mm.
That just erodes your margins, and people actually don't need it. So That's challenging. I'd like to see that change a little bit in future years, but I won't have to worry about that. But yeah, that's where we're heading.
But you're right, with the food portions. I was reading something recently, and with a lot of the high-end restaurants in America, with so many of the diners coming in that are on diet products or
Mhm.
products that are used for something else, but it's
Yep.
reducing the weight. The size of portions, has now being dictated because they were seeing drops of a number of the fine diners weren't
Yep.
coming into the restaurant, and the
Mm.
fact was purely that it's not that they were trying to not pay for the meal, but they're just the meals are just too big for
Yeah.
what we're
Right.
looking for. And
Yep.
so it's quite interesting, how they've had to adapt to these smaller, what we would call perhaps a seniors meal, just that
Uh-huh.
that smaller meal still at a high quality price, but
Yep.
there's no waste, and food wastage is just phenomenal,
That's right.
particularly here in
Exactly right.
Australia. So I thought that was interesting, whereas those days where you'd have the palmy and chips, and the
Yep.
palmy was
Loaded.
overflowing, you think,
Yep.
and I grew up on a turkey farm. Now I know how big a turkey breast is, which is much bigger than a
Yep.
chicken. I'm thinking, if this is a chicken breast, that size of that chicken
Yeah.
must have been like a baby mammoth, because you
Yes.
don't get them that big. And it was that, oh yeah, just keep eating. But when you
Mm.
talked about everybody being a master chef, when that first came out, either with my own team members who go out and do the mystery shopping, I remember one of the clubs wrote back and said, "Oh, have you got somebody from MasterChef working for you?" Because
Yeah.
we'd read the report and it said,
Yep.
the red wine jus. Nobody even knew what a red wine jus
No.
was,
Yeah.
but they'd written. And so we sort of said, yeah, just bring it back
Yep.
a bit. We know
Wind it back a bit.
that
Yep.
we know, because it was like that first year of MasterChef and everybody was so
Yeah.
into it. Just enjoy the meal, talk about the
Yep.
quality. But yeah, the chef who's been a chef for 30 odd years doesn't need to know
Probably, yeah.
about
Probably knows what they're doing.
of your
Yep.
red wine jus, and you've just
Yep.
worked out what it is.
Yep.
But that's all a part of it. And I think, even though we look at cost and the quality of the product, it is that person still delivering that product
Mm.
that is key. And so many businesses have gone into the QR code for ordering, and then you pick up and deliver. And I don't know about you, Paul, but I get a little bit annoyed when you use this QR code through some companies, not in clubs,
Mm.
where they then go, "Would you like to give us a tip?" And I thought, for what?
You
I've
haven't done
used
anything.
my
Yep.
phone. I haven't
Yep.
met anybody yet. I've
Yep.
already eaten your food, and you're wanting me to
Yep.
tip. So then
Yep.
I feel like, well, if you don't give them a tip, that, oh, what are they going to do with my food? And
Yeah.
I don't really like that. So do you see that service component, particularly for delivering food or delivering that drink or delivering the service in all the other areas, including gaming? Do you still see that as a critical point? Because this AI bit where everybody's going, oh, well, we don't need people. No, I'm sorry.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah. No. I
Yeah.
think, yeah, I still think people are actually looking for an experience. I mean,
Yes.
everything we do, you can do at home now. Like
Yeah.
without wanting to encourage people, you can gamble at home. You can get
Mm,
online and do whatever you want to do if that's your inclination.
mm,
You can Uber Eats food in, which I think's horrendous.
mm.
Um,
Never done it.
but you can go out and get takeaway. You can cook your own meal. Like you can stay
Mm.
at home. Everyone's got a big screen TV. Like remember when first the flat screen TVs came out? Like they were
Yeah.
special because they were expensive.
Yes.
Everyone's got one now. Everyone's
Yeah.
got Fox. Everyone's got Amazon. Everyone's got Netflix. Everyone's got all
Mm.
these different things. You can stay at home, still have a really lovely time. But I think people are actually looking to go out for an experience, and that's what we've got to leverage. The fact that people
Yes.
who want to go out, they want to be part of something,
Mm.
because you can get fed at home. You can cook
Yes.
yourself, or you can get fed. Someone will bring you food.
Mm.
You can watch whatever you want to watch, whether it's music or entertainment or comedy. You can do any or sport.
Mm.
You can do all of that from the comfort of your own lounge, looking at your own big flat screen TV, or you can come out and have a good time and mingle with other people and feel atmosphere. And
Yes. Yeah.
yeah, it's a different thing, but we've got to get people off the couch.
Mm. You do.
That's
Yeah.
the challenge for us, is actually getting people into the venues, and it's got to be worth their while.
Yeah, and
That's
it
the real
does.
challenge.
Yeah.
Mm.
And it is. It's all about that. It's about that atmosphere, that ambience, and it's, loneliness, as we know, is the
Yeah,
third
yeah,
biggest killer
yep,
in first world countries. It's coming out of your home. And
yep,
earlier on this week, there was a news report. It was the percentage was something like about 80% of people who don't even know who their neighbors are.
yeah,
And I'm thinking, all right, that's bad enough when it's a house to house, but can you imagine in a block of
mm,
units? And I know
yep,
I've lived in Sydney with my daughter when she was in school there for a while, and we were there for 6 years. I wouldn't even known who my next
no,
door neighbours were, because everybody goes in it, and you don't have the over the fence conversation. So it's
No.
going to a club where they know where they're going to be safe, they're going to be secure,
Yep.
and of course they make that connection with our team members, don't they?
Exactly right. Yep.
Yeah. So
And get to know familiar face and a little bit of familiarity.
yes,
Say, but easy to do.
yeah,
It's getting a reason for people to come out, and I think we do that better than anybody else. So
yes,
that's the challenge for us. The other challenge, of course, is lots of venues, not just clubs, are fighting for that discretionary dollar. So we're all trying to get everyone off the couch, all
yes.
competing with each other to make sure they come to our venues. And
Mm,
pubs have lifted their game. Pubs have never been more like clubs. Some of the
mm,
pubs are amazing.
yes.
I'm sorry to say.
Mm,
Mind you, I like going to a pub and having a beer and a feed too. So. Um,
mm,
and then there's restaurants and cafes, and every second shop seems to serve coffee these days. And
yes,
it's a
yes.
big product for us,
Mm,
an important product, but it's everybody's. You can go to a surf shop and you get a coffee. You can go to a
yes.
store and get a coffee. Like
Mm,
as I say, every second store you can seem to be able to buy a coffee at, and it's like
mm.
far out. Like it's our doctor's surgery's got a coffee, got a cafe at the front of it. Like
Yeah, look,
literally walk
and
into the
so is
doctor's
our
surgery, buy a
hospitals.
coffee. Like
Yeah. I'm
crazy.
thinking, I don't know whether I want to go into hospital to have a coffee, but they
No,
do. And they've
yeah,
got
they
that
do.
external connection, with your barbers,
Mm-hmm.
dress
Barbershop.
shops,
Yep.
hair shops, all of them do it. But I think, when you talk about that pub, that's probably something that you've been able uniquely to do there at your Tumbiumbi site there at Mingara, Paul, is that it is so expansive. It has got so many different levels and opportunities for different demographics.
Mm.
You've got that great pub atmosphere, sports bar downstairs. You can come
Yep.
through a different entrance or you can come through the main. And so it really looks at, the tradie for the Friday afternoon can come in
Mm-hmm.
that way, but then you
Yep.
can have, Beryl and Doris, they're coming in for bingo and they come through the
Mm-hmm.
beautiful main entrance. But it's
Yep.
having all these different aspects. And that's about who you know who's coming through your door.
That's right. Yes. And we're really clear about excuse me, who our target market
Yes.
is. And we
Mm,
have a different target market for each of our venues, depending on where the venue is and what we think
mm.
is the best opportunity and needs that we can service.
Yes.
Within Mingara, we're fortunate because it is a big venue. We can tailor different experiences for different people. So,
Mm.
and we're not the only ones to do that. Lots of large clubs in Sydney have done a particularly
Yes.
fantastic job at that.
Mm.
But yeah, the sports bar downstairs is, women are absolutely welcome, but
Oh gosh, yes,
it's
yeah.
really targeted at that tradie bloke market.
Mm.
It's all about sport and big screen TV,
Mm.
yelling at your footy team on the screen. Whereas upstairs we don't show sport. There's
No.
no sport on our TVs on the main floor.
Mm.
It's very strategic.
Yes,
The
yeah.
music we play, the sense through the air conditioning, all of that's tailored to who our target market is at each of the
Mm.
venues, and they're all unique, and we just focus on that. And you said before about our GMs, and yes, and our service offering, and that starts with the local GM,
Mm.
is tailored to the venues. So it's
Yes.
because
Yeah.
they're all different markets. The Blue Mountains is very, very different to Lantern Club.
Yes, very
Well, they
different.
are both in Sydney and only 20 or 30 kilometres away from each other.
Yes. Yeah.
Very, very different markets,
Very different.
different team members, different
Mm.
customers, different food offering,
Yes. Mm.
different offering generally. So yeah, it's you just got to be very clear about who your target market
Mm.
is.
And it's understanding that. So with Mingara, because you are there, you've got a large footprint and you do so much with the community in so
Hmm.
many, not just club grants, but a lot of other things that you
Yeah.
do to sponsor different groups, etc. You also have a lot of people because it's a destination. I've always seen
Yeah.
Mingara as that destination place for people to go. And so, what was the purpose of building Encore?
On course. Look, I'll go back when I first joined the organisation back in '98. That we had a DA approved for a hotel,
Right.
a different location, a different design, and for a variety of reasons, we made the decision to not go ahead with that. We made the decision to go ahead with the athletics track.
Mm,
Um, and then since becoming CEO, on two separate occasions, we looked at the hotel. We always felt that a hotel would be a good opportunity for us. It would help drive customers to the site. It would bring different people to visitation,
mm,
particularly out of Sydney. So we always felt like it was a good opportunity for us. And on two separate occasions, we did the research and got in experts, not just went off a hunch,
mm.
got the right people in, did the research, and on two occasions, it wasn't the right time.
Oh.
And one of the challenges, I think, one of the great challenges of senior leadership is being disciplined enough and strong enough to say no, because emotionally, we wanted to build a hotel. Building a hotel was actually the easy decision. Saying
Mm,
no was the hard decision. So
Yes.
it's, and you've got people, the team at the front desk who have been for 20 years saying to me, oh, we're always getting phone calls, Paul, about
Yes.
a hotel. We should have a
Yeah.
hotel. Everybody rings up and say, oh, have you got accommodation? We should build a hotel. And say, well, yes, on Friday and Saturday nights, that's fantastic, and we'll
Yeah.
always fill it. But the bank wants their money Sunday to Thursday.
Yes.
Um, but the real discipline was saying no. And then probably just before COVID, during COVID, we thought, we think now things have changed. There's been no
Mm.
new hotels on the coast
Yes.
for a long
Nothing.
time. Some of the
Mm.
offerings are a bit tired
Mm.
because we have an understanding of the local market. We knew what sort of rates people were charging for some of the little mum and dad motels.
Yes.
We thought, well, it might be the right time. So we engaged some experts, and it shaped up for us that it was, the business plan was right.
Mm.
So that's why we went ahead with it. So why did we do it? To bring people to the site.
Mm.
It certainly helps your food and beverage and your functions. We've seen an uptick in our events, in
Mm.
our events bookings. We've got a lot of some of the larger bookings that used to go to a competitor of ours because they had a hotel. We always had a better function space,
Mm.
in our opinion. But people chose that venue often because they had accommodation attached. So we've picked up a lot of large convention type conferences,
Mm.
purely now because we've got accommodation. So that's helped drive our events business. We've certainly seen uptake in our food and beverage, because in the hotel we don't have any food outlets. It's purely accommodation. So they come into the existing facilities to have breakfast, for lunch, for drinks, for dinner. We didn't have to build a pool or a gym because we
Mm.
have a
All there.
day gym.
Mm.
It's the best hotel gym you will ever get to use.
Yes.
Because usually they're an afterthought. This is a real gym. And for some people, that's important. For some people,
Yes.
it's a determinant of where you will stay. So it brings people to the site. It's adding other opportunities to us. It's growing our asset base. So there's a number of reasons why we did it, but primarily it was about bringing people to the site. And we've, again, been really clear about the different segments of the market that we're after. We're not trying to attract everybody here.
Mm.
We're very clear about who we want and where they're from and where they live and
Yes.
what we need to do to get them to come and stay with us. And so far, it's been really well.
Mm. Which
Really
is
well, really well received. We're pleased. More to go. We're not satisfied yet, but it's a little bit in front of our projections. As you know, we opened just before Christmas last year.
mm.
It's not an ideal time to open. Again, there were some delays with council getting construction underway, which then affects your
Mm.
finish date. Um, so that was challenging for us opening just before Christmas. But we've seen month on month growth, and we're really pleased with where it is at the moment. And we are doing our damn best to make sure that it continues to grow and get to the numbers that we really need it to be at. So, but yeah, we're pleased at the moment.
Yeah, which is fantastic. And thank you for sharing that with us because I think it's very easy, isn't it, when as you've said, the frontline people going, oh, everybody
Mm,
wants you to have accommodation. And it's very
mm,
easy to go, yes, that knee-jerk reaction, it's going to
yep,
work. But having the discipline to say no
mm,
is what has made it so
yeah.
successful, hasn't
I
it?
think as I said, it's harder to say no. It's a real
Yes.
discipline,
Mm.
knowing when you can say no and when you should say yes. And they're
Mm.
two different things. And that doesn't mean you should be ultra conservative, never do anything, but you can't let your emotions get in the way of what you think is the right commercial decision. At the end of the day, you're playing with the members' money, and we can't, not that we don't make mistakes, and we've made our share of them as well.
Mm.
But you want to limit those.
Yes.
It's not our money. So,
Mm, that's
mm,
right. So when we look at the registered club industry as a whole, and you were on the board for over 13 years, Clubs New South Wales, where do you see the industry over the next decade? I know probably a decade's a long way away after what happened a few years ago. That was
yes.
we didn't
Yeah.
realize it was going to happen. But where
Mm.
do you see the industry going?
I think the challenges for the industry are always going to be there. I don't see the
Mm,
pressure coming off. I always say to people, look, we've got all the sins. We have people consuming alcohol. We allow smoking on parts of our premises, and we have gambling. So
mm,
we've got a lot of the sins. So we're always a target.
mm,
We'll always be a target. I don't think the haters of our industry will ever go away.
mm,
Always going to be there. And no matter what we do, they'll never be satisfied. And that's a shame that people
mm,
can't allow others to go about their own lives and do what they think they like. And we should always do everything we can, particularly for problem gamblers.
mm.
We should always be, and I think we do a much better job than we have done previously. I think the
Yes.
industry, the good operators in the industry, and that's the vast majority of us,
Mm.
want to do the right thing. And I always say, we don't want our members to come to
No.
any harm. It's the last thing we want is someone to
Mm.
come to any harm. We're not that sort of an organisation
No.
or an industry. So I think we'll always be under pressure. I don't think that's ever going to go away. And I can see us, unfortunately, continue to have more and more obligations put in front of us.
Mm,
And that's just layer upon layer of bureaucracy and red tape and all that costs money. The latest changes, and some of them are the right thing to do. I think personally, some of them, not personally, professionally, I think some of them are useless. Some
mm,
of the change things we've had to do for harm minimisation and for anti-money laundering are actually, to be frank, quite useless.
mm.
But some of them are actually well targeted and well intentioned. And with the benefit of hindsight, you look back and go, yeah, actually that was a fair thing to do. We
Yes.
That was the right thing to do. And the classic example for me is ATMs in the gaming room.
Mm,
We all just did that. That was just
yeah.
because no one had ever said anything, and then we got told to take them out.
Mm,
It was actually the right thing to do.
yes.
That was a responsible measure, and we should all continue to act in that spirit that it's the right thing to do. Is not have it, not to push the limit, not to push the legislation as
No.
hard as you can, and make sure that you're 1 centimetre outside the minimum requirement, but to
Mm,
actually do the right thing and act in the spirit of the legislation. And
yeah.
if we all did that, then we'd probably come under less scrutiny. Anyway,
Yes.
get off on a soapbox. So I don't think that's ever going to change. I don't think that's going to change. I think that people in our world who don't like what we do will continue to jump up and down. It's a much easier platform now to get on social media and bang on about that sort of stuff. So that's not going away.
No, it's
Yeah.
not. So let's just, before you,
Sorry, I'll just
yeah.
add to, and apart from that, then you've got the competitive pressures. So
Mm,
all that stuff costs money and time. That's a cost. Our costs are increasing. Our, wages go up, and they should go up on a controlled basis, a manageable basis, but our energy costs are rising quickly. There was talk recently about increased gaming taxes. All these added costs will continue to shake out the industry. So there's always going to be people who fall by the wayside, and
mm,
that's the nature of the beast, I suppose. So,
mm.
mm.
Yeah. But look, thank you for those insights. Before we finish up, Paul, I want you to just share with us perhaps what your greatest achievements, and I know you've talked about, various challenges and, building, the venues over the years, but many years ago, and I'm just thinking, you're talking about your boys now that are fully grown young men and in the workforce. You said to me one day, "Well, Michelle, I'm off. My wife and I and the boys, we're going in a caravan," which was well before it was the cool thing to do.
Hmm.
And they were only little ones back then,
Mm. Yep.
and you took off even as a CEO. And I was thinking to myself as, as CEO of my own business, like,
Yep.
wow,
Yep.
this is before Zoom was around.
Hmm.
Gosh, Paul must be really, the directors must be really backing him, and he's got this fantastic
Mm.
team, which we all knew that you
Yep.
had. But you went off and you did that, and it was, I think, there was a lot of people in the industry that were thinking, gosh, that's
Mm.
something I'd really love to do, but I
Mm.
just don't know if I could do it.
Mm.
So I want you to just touch briefly on why you did that, because
Yep.
people these days going, oh, I want this lifestyle work balance,
Mm.
and
Yep.
you had that then. But where are we going to see you in the next couple of years as well before we finish up?
Okay. So the holiday you're talking about was back in 2009. I took long
Oh my
service
gosh,
leave.
it was all that
Was
time
that
ago.
long time ago? Yeah. So our eldest boy didn't come with us. He was old enough. He was an adult by that stage,
All
but our
right.
son and daughter came with us, and we pulled them out of school for a term and hired a caravan, and off we went. And we'd never tied a caravan before. And we had 15 weeks of an amazing lap around Australia.
Yeah.
And you're right. A lot of people said to me, "How can you do that? How can you go away?" And my first reaction is, well, my ego, I think, is in check.
Mm,
I'm not the place, if the organization can't survive without me going away, then that's my fault. That's my
mm,
problem. We built a really good team, a really confident team. It was a good opportunity for me to literally have a break. And as I said to them, if the place is burning down, don't ring me, ring the fire brigade.
yeah.
The CEO should be able to take a break. The CEO shouldn't be the control point for every decision.
Yes.
You shouldn't be thinking that you are, because if you are, you're kidding yourself. Because
Mm,
there's millions of things happen every day that you don't actually have any control over.
mm,
They're the ones that touch the customers. They're the really important ones. But
yes.
in the 15 weeks that I was away, and I didn't realize this at the time, the team around me made the commitment that they wouldn't call me.
Yeah.
They were determined not to call me. Every time I rang up to say hello to everybody, because it's the family I work with, right?
Yeah.
It's ring up to say hello to everybody. They would, how's things going? Oh, it's good. How's the weather up there? And they just kept turning the subject around. They wouldn't talk to me
Yes.
about work.
Mm,
In In the 15 weeks I was away, I had three phone calls from work. One of them was to tell me that our gym had just won Best Gym in Australia. So I was pretty happy to get
Yes.
that phone call.
Yes.
Another one was a legal matter that I had asked when we got a decision was to ring me, let me know. And that was a very brief phone call with it. And the third one was they rang me. I said before we did the amalgamation with Punch Bowl, and the deal was that we would shut them down, sell the property, and bring it forward. The
Mm.
team sold the club, they sold the building, had it approved by the board, had it signed off, did all that, and then rang me and told me we've just stuck several million dollars into the bank account. And I said, what? So they made those decisions. That's a big
Yes.
decision. Making a decision to actually physically sell one of our club buildings was always the plan, but they did it, and they knew that they didn't need to check in with me. They had the right
Yes.
people, the right advice, the right legal
Mm.
advice. Was it an appropriate price? All that sort of stuff.
Mm.
They're professionals. They're senior professionals. They don't need to do that sort of
Yes.
stuff. But if you
Mm.
think you can't go away and leave your team, that's your problem. That's your problem.
Mm.
So I was really proud of that. That was something. And to be fair, that was for me. That was not just about me having a holiday. It was actually about giving back some time to the kids because
Yes.
one of the challenges in the hospitality industry is that you can actually spend a lot of time at work,
Mm.
and I felt like I had missed a bit of that.
Mm.
Just through circumstances, and it just,
Yeah.
you work long hours and you're often working at home and things like that. So that was my little way of giving back to the two younger ones.
Mm.
Yeah, not so much about me, although I guess that was wonderful. I'm going to do more of it next year, but
So yes,
it
tell
was
us
a
about
wonderful
next
opportunity.
year.
Next year, so I'm thinking I've given my notice. For those that don't know, I've announced my retirement. So in January of 2026, I'll be finishing up. So yeah, looking forward to a bit of retired life, and I'd like to, if I can, get on a couple of boards again. As you mentioned, I was on the board of Clubs New South Wales. I've been on the board of the Australian Turf Club for a few years. I've done a couple of other little local charity boards. So I do enjoy that role. So I wouldn't mind doing a
Mm.
bit of that to continue to use my brain and to offer whatever wisdom or
Mm.
experience that I have to somebody else. So hopefully doing that, but it's not a deal breaker for me. We've got lots of plans for traveling. We've now bought a caravan in readiness for retirement, so we're got lots of plans for that. We've got a couple more grandkids. Both the boys have got children on the way, so
Right.
we've got one grandchild. We've got two more coming before Christmas, so there's a bit more time to be spent with family again. Just
Mm.
a little bit more available for everybody, and also then just spending a little bit more time with my wife, who's been uh, a trooper with me with all these hours and all these trips. And every time you're on a board, you're in Sydney, you're staying overnight, and you're off to a
Yes.
local meeting here or there. And I've spent a lot of time away from home, and I've enjoyed what I've been doing, but I haven't enjoyed being away. But I know my wife and our kids are the ones that miss out on that more than anything
Mm.
else. So I'm away at a function or event or whatever. I'm busy.
Mm.
They're at home without me. So a little bit more time back with the wife and,
Yeah.
do the right thing there. So I'm looking forward to that too.
Yeah. Look, I wish you all the very best. As much as I think the industry and I know myself would go, oh, just stay. I'm sure your team would love you to just stay there forever. You do have a life, and
Mm,
you've given so much to the registered club industry, and as well as just the Mingara Leisure Group. It's to the whole industry, and I
thanks,
know
Michelle.
they would all join me in wishing you all the very best. And I know we'll catch up before then. I'm sure there'll be
Yes.
multiple celebrations, Paul. But it's choosing your time to go
Mm, that's right.
and be still young enough without being on a Zimmer frame to enjoy
That's right.
those
Yes.
holidays with your wife and
Yes.
those amazing grandchildren, because you're going to be a
That's right.
very, very, very busy granddad
Yes.
next year.
Yeah. Somebody in the club industry rang me when I'd announced the retirement and said, not many CEOs, but certainly not many club CEOs get to choose when they go.
Yes.
That's not lost on me, but I'm also very proud, excuse me, very proud that the CEO who's been appointed is internal, and then his replacement's internal, and then his replacement is internal. So we've got
Mm.
three people being promoted to brand new roles for them, which I'm really proud of that we're able to do that
Mm.
within our organisation. I think that's something that I'm very, very, very pleased about and proud
Yes.
of, and will
Yes.
stay with me. So yeah, in good
And I
hands.
think that is so important. It's understanding about that succession planning and developing those leaders from within. That
Hmm,
the part of their organization, they live and breathe it, and
that's
so
right.
and it's that easy transition. Thank you so much, Paul, for joining me today. I've
Pleasure.
absolutely loved our conversation. I've always loved our chats here and there over the years, and I wish you all the very best for the future.
Good on you, Michelle. Thank you. It's been a pleasure.